flawless victory.
Hey everyone, I'm Mono, and Update 9 is finally among us, and I'm really excited because unlike Update 8, this update does not introduce any radical new changes to the game like the vehicles or, the way nodes worked and stuff like that came with Update 8. Update 9 is more about tweaking things that were already there. Now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of new stuff. There's a new weapon, the MG34. You can now melee enemies, and barbed wire is now actually a workable thing that will prevent you from advancing. But what I find most interesting is the vast amount of changes that the game received at a more core or gameplay level. There is quite a lot to unpack here, so let's get started. I do recommend you read the patch notes, which I will link to down in the video description, because there is just no way I'm gonna be able to cover everything. So I will be focusing on the bigger, more significant changes. I've already spent like 3 hours with the update, and overall I think it's a really positive update. There are some issues and some things that aren't working as intended, which I don't know if they're gonna be fixed or not. So let's start with taking a look at the barbed wire, which is one of those things that kinda works. So the barbed wire is now 2 stacks high. You cannot build the other regular barbed wire that you had before this update, and it does now stop you from advancing. You can't just run over it, but the problem is you actually can run over it. You can jump. If you time it just right, you will vault over it. And this obviously is not the way it's supposed to work, so hopefully it gets fixed, but for the most part it is a wall and you can't get past it. The only way to destroy it seems to be satchel charges, which I don't know. I think the AT bazooka and the tank shells should destroy it. I haven't tested the tank shells, but I have tested the bazooka and it doesn't work. So hopefully that changes. And this is maybe the biggest change in the update, in my opinion, because this will change the way defensive structures work. Because some points, if you can barbed wire all around them, it's gonna be really, really tough to get in. Some spots that come into mind are spots like hospice, checkpoint, anywhere where there's already buildings that can work as a choke point and you can close off the entrances, it's gonna be really tough. And since you can't throw the satchel charge, you have to get really close. I hope that changes in the future. I hope they make the satchel throwable and they eliminate the different timers and just leave you with a 15-second or 30-second timer or something like that, because you're never gonna use the 2-minute timer, come on. The other big change that also comes to the engineer is that engineers can now build all the nodes. You can build all 4 fuel nodes, all 4 munitions nodes. You don't have to rely on other engineers from other squads. And this is absolutely brilliant. This is one of the best fixes or changes in the game, in my opinion. Because not being able to build all the nodes just made no sense, because you would have to rely on other squads. And now you can just get a truck, go as engineer, and just build all the nodes yourself. Now, there is a restriction though. You can only build them 50 meters apart from each other, which doesn't really make sense in a way. What's the reasoning behind that? I don't know. But it does make it so at least you do have some protection from somebody going and building all the nodes in the exact same spot, then having them get bombarded or satchel charged or whatever, and having all your nodes disappear at once. The other really good change is that blueprints can now be dismantled faster, and they do expire after 3 minutes of the blueprints not being built. And I think this is a huge improvement, because it's really common to see some nodes, some blueprints being put, and the engineer that put them not having the supplies to build them, or just, thinking somebody else is gonna take the supplies there, and basically not being responsible enough on getting those nodes built. And then you look at the map and you see nodes everywhere, and you assume that you're getting the resources from them when you're really not. So this eliminates that problem in a quite effective way. If you do build them, great. If you don't build them, there's 3 minutes for anyone else to build them, and if not, they just disappear, which is, I think it's a good solution. Speaking of looking at the map, there's a whole new interface pretty much everywhere. The map has changed. The garrisons and outposts are now way bigger, more readable, which I really appreciate. If you hover over supplies on the map, you can see how many supplies are actually there, actually remaining, which is awesome. Also, you now have this list of spawnable locations, only it also lists outposts where you can't spawn because they are from other squads. So I don't know what the deal with that is. And there are some minor changes like being able to add friends to your Steam account right from the tab menu from the scoreboard. You can just click on an icon that's right next to everybody's name and that will send them a friend request on Steam, which is really awesome. Now, please guys, don't spam me friend requests if you see me playing. Please, I beg you, don't do it. In the few hours I played of the update, I've already gotten a couple from people that I don't know, so please just don't. The overall interface to selecting a class and deploying and whatnot has changed, and there's now no keep or apply buttons. They are gone, which is great because that led to a lot of confusion and a lot of problems when trying to select a kit, and you accidentally would leave the squad if you hit apply instead of keep in the first time you select a different kit. So yeah, that whole problem is now non-existent. I did encounter a bug where I'm officer level 10 and I couldn't select the other loadouts that are unlocked in level 3 and 6, I think. For some reason I had to leave the squad and go back in, and then I could do that. Again, this will probably get fixed in a hotfix. Going back to the use of supplies, the AT gun no longer requires 100 supplies. You can now build it with 50. Thank God, thank you Black Matter, because ever since they changed that and you had it so you needed 2 boxes of supplies with the AT gun, you just didn't see AT guns anymore, right? It was so hard to build an AT gun that you didn't see them anywhere, and as a big fan of the AT gun, even like I wouldn't build AT guns anymore because it would just drain too much time. Now you can just build them with your own supply squad, with your own support player in your squad, I mean, and that is just incredible. That's just a great change that they didn't announce, I think, before these patch notes, and I'm really glad they implemented this. This is just great. What's not great is that the grass issue is not fixed at all. Like, I'm still seeing the same grass loading problem everywhere. I do not see any difference at all. There's some difference now in the way that the options work in terms of grass detail. Like, you don't get as many bushes disappearing, as many grass disappearing when you use the lower setting as you did before, but there is still a pretty significant difference, and the grass still takes a while to load once you respawn. So I'm not sure what the issue is here, because they do say that they fixed it in the patch notes and they haven't. So hopefully we get an official statement from Black Matter on what the issue with the grass is, where they are with it, if it's gonna really be fixed or not, because it's long overdue, and the fact that they say they fixed it and they haven't is just not very good. Also, now in the video settings, you can find the community TAA option for your FXAA setting, which I highly recommend you use. This is the same settings as that .ini tweak on the engine.ini file that I made a video on. It's the exact same thing, so use that, it looks great. The other change that I really like, though I do think they will have to tweak it, is the fact that you can now build garrisons in red enemy territory, in the first row of enemy territory. And I've already done this, and it works as expected. The only problem is that you have this 100-meter disabling radius. If there's an enemy infantry close, the garrison will get disabled. So obviously, if you have a garrison that's near a really hot zone, it will get disabled quite often. However, one incredible benefit of being able to build these garrisons now is that you can build a garrison, and even though it gets disabled, if you cap the sector, you will have that garrison in the new sector and it won't be disabled anymore, because, you know, regular rules will apply now after the sector is blue. And I don't know, this is a great way to pre-build garrisons for when you have to defend after you cap. I think that cannot be overstated how important that is and how significant that change is. I do wish, or I do hope, that they turn the radius down from 100 meters to like 50 or 70 or something, because 100 does seem like way too much, but it's still a step in the right direction at being able to, you know, modify that front line, not having to adhere to a grid that's overlaid on the map that doesn't represent anything, that's just an abstraction of the game. And you can now, like, if you take territory, you can build a garrison. I like that. Alright, now let's go over the new guns and the new melee mechanic. The new gun, the MG34, I've tried it, it's good. The clip goes by the magazine or the belt feed or whatever you want to call it. I'm not a gun guy. But anyway, the point is you have to reload pretty often. And overall, I liked it, but I'm not sure what the difference with the MG42 is. Maybe it's a bit more accurate or something, I don't know. But I don't see myself using it over the MG42 if I had to pick between the two. But you do start with it as a starter kit, and you then have to unlock the MG42. In the Allied side, they did the same thing, but you use the Browning first, and now you unlock the BAR, which seems like a strange choice. Maybe this means that they are gonna add a bipod to the BAR like many people want. I don't know, but it is kind of a strange kit to have in the the machine gunner kit for the Allied. The melee, I've only gotten to use it twice in this clip, and whatever. Like, I don't really use melee in games. It works fine. It's a bit too bloody. Like, the amount of blood that splashes on the screen really obscures your vision, which kind of makes me not want to use it, because then it would be harder to see other enemies. So whatever, maybe they will turn that down a bit, but overall it works as intended and I don't see any problem with it. They've also changed some of the weapon textures, but I haven't really noticed any difference. Maybe if you compare them side by side, maybe then you would really notice. I don't know, it's just not something that I really pay attention too much in games. And lastly, let's talk about Utah and the armor update. Utah with the night cycle looks really good. It looks like a totally different map. I would love to see, though, the searchlights on and some like major light sources on the map. Like maybe illuminating the fields or just straight up towards the sky. I think that would be massive in terms of atmosphere. Alright. Now let's talk about the armor update, and this is supposed to be the part 1 of the update, and what this actually is, you can look it up in the patch notes. It's just a couple of buffs to the tanks. It's no major redesign of the armor or the angles on the armor penetration, AP penetration, and whatnot. So one of the big changes is that AT mines will no longer instantly destroy tanks like the Tiger, the Panther, and the armored Shermans, the Sherman 76 and the Sherman 75. Also, the tank belt from the MG has been increased from 100 rounds to 200 rounds, which is great because it made absolutely no sense to have only 100 rounds in a magazine for the tanks. Now it's 200, which is awesome. They also improved the survivability of tanks to artillery and bombing runs, so you now need direct hits with either of those. They will no longer deal proximity damage to any tanks, which is, I think, the way it's supposed to work. They also say that they fixed the damage occlusion, which means the way damage gets negated when there's a fence or stuff like that and there's an explosion from an HE round or something like that. Supposedly that's been fixed, so you should be able to splash an enemy with HE that's sitting behind a fence. So again, that's awesome. I haven't tested if it actually works or not, but, you know, I'm hoping it does, and that would be great. Overall, I think this is a fantastic update to the game. It brings much needed improvements to some existing stuff, like the engineer, like the AT gun, like the tanks, like the interface. Also, speaking about the interface, there's now an actual tutorial, or at least the beginnings of a tutorial. So you now have more information on how supplies work, how building works, how nodes work, and stuff like that, which is good. Though still not that emphasis on building garrisons that I would like to see. There's pretty much no mention of garrisons anywhere, and that's something that I really think they need to change, because garrisons are the life of this game. Garrisons make or break a team, and that's something that every single player needs to understand. But overall, this is a fantastic update, I think. Everything is better. The BAR sound, by the way, is better. The deploy screen is better, the map is more readable, the engineer role as a whole has been streamlined, the barbed wire works half as intended and half not. Hopefully they fix the vaulting issue that I mentioned, but overall, I am loving Update 9. I think this is a really good update for the game. Alright guys, let me know down in the comment section what you think about this update, and if you are enjoying it so far. If you're having any performance issues, if there's anything that you would like to see changed or that you don't like from this update, leave a comment down below and let's talk about it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.